This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, welcome to WCM's Park Update. I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and of course my colleague Mike Gast is here, the CEO, president, co-founder, whatever you want to say title of Emiola Group. So,
janitor, everything. Yeah.
Janitor, he does everything at the place. And then our show's sponsored by Spa tonight. I forgot to mention that. And our guest today is Carter Moses, Director of Investments at DLP Capital. And Carter, I had the pleasure of seeing you a little bit ago at like a Live Oak Bank Symposium they had in North Carolina. That was pretty incredible. All the people
that was such a good turnout.
Yeah, it was a great event. And, I got to learn a little bit more about you and your husband and what you guys do at DLP. I guess let's just start off with that. For people who may not know what DLP Capital is, I know you came from a place that was called Climb Capital. I guess, can you just kind of explain your history in the industry and then kind of what you guys do at DLP?
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and talk with you both today. So kind of have an interesting, background of how I got into the outdoor hospitality space, but I've been in commercial real estate for, a while now. Started off actually on the investment sales side in brokerage, working for HFF, who then got bought out by JLL on our office team out in Denver. And my husband decided to kind of switch from Boeing to go be in the Navy. Instead of building planes, he wanted to go out and fly them. And so that got us stationed in Pensacola. And I happened to find Climb Capital at the time, which is a real estate investment group, and came on to join them. I actually sent them an email and was like, hey guys, I'll be your next new hire and I can help you take your acquisitions to the next level. And they hired me, funny enough, but I think it worked out for them. And we really started off as Climb, buying apartment deals in mobile home parks. And then towards the end of 2020, one of our owners, Robert Preston, is a huge RVer himself with him and his family. They homeschool their kids and they travel around, and he was staying at some RV parks and happened to talk to the owner, and she's like, oh, I'm thinking of selling. And the entrepreneur that he is, he's like, let's start looking into this asset class. Turns out so much potential there, right? As you both know, and that really sparked us into buying RV parks. And so Climb Capital bought as an owner operator. We have about 14 RV parks, all kind of centered around the Southeast. And, how that kind of equates to DLP today is our owner, Bob Preston and Don Werner, knew each other. We've connected a lot, started kind of talking about the RV space. They mentioned, their group is looking into doing this as well. And, just for some background, so DLP is a private services group focusing on real estate investments. They, really want to focus on making an impact to all of their people. So affordable housing is a huge push for our group. And, they focus on asset class from build to rent communities, single family communities, multifamily, and then also now in the RV space. And so we really came over as Climb through our strategic partnership to kind of run their division of RV parks. And so that officially happened at the beginning of 2024. And we're super excited about, what DLP is doing in this space. And so from the RV sector, we really kind of have two areas that DLP is looking to grow and put out there. So we've got what we're calling our Unhitched brand. So we're calling it Unhitched. Unhitch your RVs, stay a while at the park. They're more long-term brand, and it's going to be, month-to-month tenants, a high-end community, affordable housing. And then also we've got a Dream Outdoor brand that's going to be kind of high-end RV and vacation rental resorts. And so those are going to have, all the amenities that you can think of there. And so super excited.
Yeah.
So it's not just RV exclusive then?
No, it's not. We do a lot of park models and, cabins, tiny homes, all of that stuff within the parks. And we're actually looking at building, we've got a waterfront location that we're under contract on right now, which we're super excited about, that we're looking to actually do just solely high-end vacation rentals, and maybe a minimal RV park. But if there's RVs there, they'll be more of like motor coach style RVs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned, so you acquire parks, but you also develop them, right? How many parks have you developed so far?
So far we haven't developed any full cycle yet. We are developing kind of our first big park right now. That's going to be kind of in northern Jacksonville metro. And that's going to be one of our dream outdoor brands. So that'll be, very high end. We've got a 9-hole golf course component there, water slides, splash pads, F&B component. And that'll be a mix, almost 50-50 of high-end vacation rentals and also RV spots as well.
When you're looking at it from an investment side of things, is it kind of easier to do a ground up development, or do you find that there are plenty of parks out there that meet what you need available, I guess?
So that is a great question. Right now, development is tough. Construction costs are very high to get things done. And, when we're looking at a development, we typically, like to take over a piece of land once it's already been entitled and gone through the permitting process. So we don't have to spend 2+ years, working on that before we can actually start. So we see a mix in doing both. I mean, you can definitely, get additional yield from a construction standpoint that you might not have from an existing product, but being able to match that is really what we're kind of, focusing on is, maybe more that unhitched brand that is those longer term parks coming in and acquiring a great piece of property in, location that has those demand drivers, high population, strong, job growth, and taking maybe a mom and pop park or something that is a bit smaller, adding additional sites or putting that operational efficiency in there to then get those rents and get the stable income from those, but we don't need to build that from ground up.
So on the marketing side, are they all pretty much freestanding, or are you starting to group them under these brands?
So we will be grouping them. Right now, they're freestanding, but as we're building out these brands, which we hope to officially launch at the end of the year, the Dream Outdoor and Unhitched, we will be rebranding our existing parks to be under that umbrella. And then everything that we're building, brand new will fall into one of those as well.
So what about geographically? Are you limited to the Southeast? Are you looking on the West Coast? Is it year-round only? What are the parameters?
Kind of depends. We are primarily looking in the Southeast, but we will go nationwide for the right property. We actually bought 2 deals at the end of 2023 in the Ozarks that are right on the river, gorgeous property, big demand drivers for guests coming there. And that historically probably wouldn't be something that we would just look at from a location base, but we found this and there's, a ton of opportunity to be had there that kind of opened our whole umbrella to, hey, maybe we shouldn't just look in the Southeast because there's great product all over. And as long as it meets, certain specifications that we're looking for and, the zoning or the county that it's in is relatively flexible, then that's something, we'll look at. From our perspective, California, even though I'm living there right now and it's an incredible state, is hard to get things approved and they have, rent control and all of that. We might not look to go into that type of area, but we will, expand outside of the South.
Yeah. You do have a location in Arizona, correct?
We do.
Okay.
We own a park right up near Lake Powell in Page, and love that location. It's summertime, so the parks are filling up very fast, right by a bunch of national parks. So we will definitely look to go to other places for strong opportunities.
Yeah. What are you seeing on the demographic side? I guess are most of your campgrounds family friendly? Do you see a lot of younger families coming to the parks?
We do. We see a lot of younger families, and that's, a big push. Family is really important to our company and DLP, and making something a high-end experience, but also affordable is really important for what we're trying to do. And so a lot of these parks that we're looking to build, and, parks that we also own as well, like Island Oaks, very family friendly. They host a lot of events that incorporate the kids and the parents. And I think we're seeing from a generational change that, typically if you asked me, 5+ years ago, what I thought of RVing, I would say retirees, right? People that are staying in their RV, traveling around. But I think a lot of that has changed over the years. And we're seeing a lot of millennials are now almost the largest class that is kind of taking over and, wanting to go outside. The work-life balance is super important. And that's kind of made a switch to what people are typically looking for now. They don't need just an RV spot. They want more of an experience and a community to really, want to go and spend time at that property.
Yeah.
So what's the economics of this look like now? Has it slowed down quite a bit in the way the economy is going right now?
We haven't really seen a major impact from our perspective. Granted, we are relatively newer into the space, so we didn't own, in 2005 to 2010 when the last big kind of recession hit that people were affected. But, I think from before COVID, the revenue numbers are still increasing and people don't have a problem paying those higher rates. I think from an occupancy perspective, those have decreased or just become a little bit more normalized into this space than what, the huge bump that we saw in 2020 and 2021. It's kind of normalizing, but we don't see that as a negative. And honestly, as I'm sure you guys are aware, there's so much demand for people wanting to go RVing that there's a limited supply of RV parks, and especially, nice high-end RV parks that people want to go to, that there's still, we're seeing a ton of demand to build those parks to meet, the demand that we're seeing from guests.
Yeah, definitely. What is the interest for the investors right now? Or is it easy to get investors on board with this type of asset class with the way the economy is? Or are they looking for different things like this to invest in?
I think it's definitely easier than it was a few years ago. Now that, it's more normalized for RV parks, there's been a whole kind of culture shift of people after COVID, and people have been wanting to travel more, that it's not as nuanced anymore. And especially if you're talking to a lot of investors in the space, mobile home parks have been around for a long time. And so you kind of transition that a little bit to get people more comfortable in the RV space. But I think people are looking for yield right now. I mean, that's really important with the economy. And so being able to have a high yield asset class that is RV parks is really important. And so we've been seeing a lot of new investors look to get into the space, even from a, investment standpoint of people coming from multifamily, coming from manufactured housing, wanting to actually buy and operate RV parks. And I think that's really spiked over the past year and a half. And I'm curious, like, you guys have probably seen that as well from groups that you've talked to that are, newer into this space than kind of the traditional people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're hearing is in what I see at conferences too, is that people are still interested in investing, and it's definitely caught people's attention. And, I'm not going to sit here and say every investment group that comes in is, maybe doing the right thing, but, a lot of them are trying their best to make it work. And so it'll be interesting over the next 5 to 10 years to see, how many of these investment groups can stick around, whether they buy or sell or combine with each other. I don't know. It'll be kind of interesting as the years go on. So
I think that's a great point. And I know we kind of talked about that at that Live Oak event with, a lot of the speakers of, is that sustainable and will we see distressed product? And I mean, right now, I don't think there's a ton of distressed product out there, but it is important to know if you are looking to get into this space, either as a single owner or through an investment group, like, it has a lot of operational capabilities to make sure you're partnering with the right group. And, you're aware that it's not just like running a mobile home park where you just collect rent, right? You have to create those events and, have a lot more staff and all of that to really create the experience.
Yeah. One second, Mike. Keep that question. We're going to take a break. I recognize our sponsor Spot tonight. Mike's going to have to wait. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Supercharge your campground bookings with Spot Tonight, the #1 commission-free OTA for RV parks and campgrounds. Through integrations with top property management systems, Spot Tonight displays real-time outdoor accommodation inventory with a marketplace where campers can search for and instantly book campsites. Best of all, it's 100% free for operators. Visit partners.spottonight.com to get listed and unlock access to over 60 million campers.
Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Carter Moses, who is the Director of Investment at DLP Capital. And right before the break, I cut off Mike. So, Mike, you get the first question.
Wow, this is new.
I know.
So, Carter, what kind of data do you guys look at to determine what you need to do to a park once you take it over?
That's a great question, and something that we're always trying to get better in. I think, one of the negatives of being in the RV space and having it so, fragmented with mom and pops and not a ton of institutional owners is data's hard to come by, right? And so, that's been a big push for us to really analyze all the parks that, we own. We have a lot of great connections within the space, so making sure to go to some of those networking events to really figure out the market. But, KOA has some great reports that come out, RVIA, OHI, all of those. So making sure that we're aware with all the new trends that are happening. But, one of the big data points that we've also been looking at right now as it relates to adding, cabins and vacation rentals, tiny homes, whatever you want to call them, into our parks is the Airbnb market. And, seeing if this is a feasible spot to add into the RV space as well. And AirDNA has some great data. It is a little bit expensive. They have a free version, but you can actually look at trends to see how occupied a property is, what their, average daily rates are, and all of that, which has been helpful for us when evaluating. But also looking at the demographics, right? Looking at what's the population, what's the growth, what's the labor, how many parks are in the area, is there plan to be more developments. Like if you add a development here, are they going to build one right up the road? All of that is really important for us when evaluating a new either acquisition or development.
Yeah, definitely. And you probably look at room for growth as well, right?
Absolutely. Room for growth is huge. Same with, from a location standpoint, what is the demand driver? Is that demand driver businesses? Is the demand driver, something really unique at the property or from like a location standpoint? So for our developments, especially from the Dream Outdoor side, we're really looking for a unique feature, primarily something that has to do with nature. So like for those Ozark deals that we bought, the river and tubing down the float and creating, events and F&B as it relates to the gorgeousness of the property. And the reason why people are going out there and camping is really important. And that's, what we are trying to push on our side to find the right deals.
Yeah, you spoke on that, I think, a little bit at the symposium that we were at a little bit ago about that. You got to have something that catches the eye of the camper, I guess. Something for them to do, something unique, whether it's on or off property, I guess. I imagine like parks near, that's why parks near national parks kind of work, is because, they've got all this great stuff for people to do nearby, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And then you tend to potentially run into some trouble, right? And we talked about this as well, but the mentality of you build it, they will come. And I think those are going to be, the properties that might be in some trouble in the next few years if they don't have a strong demand and they just build a park in the middle of nowhere. And it could be a gorgeous property, but you just don't have the guests or the tenants that are looking to stay out there.
I know you guys manage a lot of your all of your parks, right? In-house, I guess.
Correct.
You guys have okay. I guess I just kind of wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on the third-party management companies you're seeing coming in? I mean, over the last year or two, I think we've seen more companies jump into that than ever in the past, I guess. It seems like they're springing up all around now.
I think they are. And honestly, there's a demand for third-party management for some of these groups coming into the space, especially from other asset classes, because they don't know how to operate. I mean, it's a weird mix. You're almost running a hotel and you're almost running an MH park. So you got to kind of blend them, together. And so I think for any people looking to get in to the RV space or looking at a third-party group, really doing your diligence and to see how they are operating and running things, because I think they can be a great help, but they potentially might not fit your model, or just making sure that, the numbers aren't too aggressive or how they're running things is actually going to be realistic, I think is very important, because some of the groups that, popping up, you want to make sure that they've had a history of running parks as well.
So Carter, you mentioned tenants. Is there a formula for your parks as far as long-term tenants versus transient?
Typically for our parks, we call them long-term, but they're month to month. So we don't have any leases at our parks, and none of the properties that we own are true, seasonal parks that they're open for just 6 months out of the year, and they come in and rent for, $6,000 for those 6 months right up front. We don't have any of those, but mostly either nightly stays, which are on our Dream Outdoor, and then our Unhitched is more, month to month type of tenancies.
Could that change based on the economy and what you're seeing in traffic, I guess?
I think it definitely could. There's always that possibility. And I think that's why another reason that the RV space is, recession proof is the wrong word. You can never say something's recession proof, but recession resistant. And the fact of, you could have this great property that is more transient, but being able to convert it maybe in the off season to more monthly tenants that live there on that basis. I mean, travel nurses have been so big. Even families are now looking to travel around more, to stay in different places for month to month. They're homeschooling their kids. They want to be outside. And so we see that trend.
What's the big amenity, Carter? What's the must-have on your parks? Is it pickleball courts? Is it golf courses? What is it?
That's a great question. If you catch me on a different day, I'll probably tell you a different amenity. But honestly, pickleball courts are huge. We see that. We just put an additional court on one of our properties in Florida, and I was out there for a manager retreat a few weeks ago, and they were packed at night, which was pretty crazy. But I think one of the big amenities is having some form of water feature. If that's a pool, if those are, unique hot tubs, if that is either walking distance or near a beach or on the beach, lake, all of that is super important for tenants. And that's, typically what they look for. And also be thinking about, it's always going to be, what is your guest profile? But if you are trying to be more family friendly, what do the kids want to do? If it's safe enough that the parents can be like, oh, go enjoy the pool and I'll sit over here near the tiki hut and, read or have a drink while also watching you. That's super important. But I think if I had one feature to put in a park, it would be some form of pool or water feature.
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody kind of anticipates a park having a water feature of some kind. I know there are some parks that don't. And I always, when I talk to some parks that don't, they always have to be very specific with campers. Hey, we don't have a pool, because I think a lot of people expect you to have something at least. So a pool, a pond, a lake, something. Would you guys ever get into buying or selling sites to campers? I know we've seen some of those parks springing up. I guess, is that something that you would ever look at if it was the right opportunity?
Yes, I think we would. If it was the right opportunity, I think some of those properties, Firefly is a great one. They did a fantastic job with their property up in Texas. but there's a lot of demand to be able to sell off those lots to people. I think the biggest challenge, and something that we're thinking about is, what do we do once we sell off all the lots? And then we have, that HOA component. Do we want to run an HOA? Or is that something then, we just sell off after and to a management company that's going to kind of take over the HOA and run that as well? So we're not quite there yet, but we do think it's a very interesting concept, and we're seeing demand from groups looking to do that as well.
Yeah. Would you, Mike comes from the KOA side, and obviously you guys are structuring your own branding. I guess, would you ever consider like a Jellystone or a KOA park becoming part of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We actually, as part of Climb Capital, bought a KOA up in Nashville a few years ago. And I think, the biggest mistake that we did, and I would, caution anyone who's looking to get a KOA to think about this as well, is it was a fantastic location that we thought, okay, we can come in, just eliminate the KOA, put our own brand on it right away. And, it'll still have strong tenancy, cash flow, all of that. And it does, but it took a little bit, right? Like, I think we would have wanted to keep on the KOA for at least a year and, run it, start slowly putting out that new branding and, telling our customers in person, because, what KOA kind of did is right when we took it over and we weren't keeping up with their franchise anymore, is they sent an email out to all the tenants saying, your reservation is no longer there. The KOA is done. And then we were like, oh, shoot, we didn't know that they were going to do that, because every park that we've taken over, it's never happened that way.
Yep.
And it took a little bit of backpedaling, but they're great properties.
Yeah. Yeah. And the franchise systems can help. Would you guys ever consider like franchising your own parks, like down the road? Creating your own?
That's a great question. I think nothing is off the table. Both our CEO and, the president of our Dream Outdoor RV division are very entrepreneurial. And so I think that's definitely something that they're thinking about. Hopefully we all expect both of these brands to be very successful. And so I think once we start it on our side and, prove out that business plan, I think we'll definitely maybe look to have that opportunity when the time is right.
When your husband gets done being a pilot, and you're like, you decide, hey, maybe I want to own my own RV park. Is that a possibility? Are you and your husband ever just going to go buy one or build one?
Yes, he tries to get me to build one every day, just a one-off, glamping place, just, the two of us. And
yep.
I told him once he gets out of the Navy, maybe we'll do that as well. But absolutely. I mean, there's so much demand to be had from this asset class. If it is, long-term RVing, MH, RV, glamping. And so I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah,
there's a few of them out there with runways to go along with them.
So
don't tempt him; he will want to build one with a runway.
I don't know if he does helicopters too, but he could do helicopter tours. Go practice a little bit on a helicopter. So
that ancillary income.
Yeah, there you go. So and we didn't even touch base on the glamping side. That's just exploding. And what does that look like at your parks? I guess, do you do any sort of glamping?
We do a little bit of a mix, and we're starting to with how much that market is really kind of spun off. I think social media was a huge, reason why people are wanting to go glamping. They want a cool experience in a great location with product that they can't get everywhere. They don't want to stay at a hotel. And so we're definitely looking at putting those into our parks. We kind of have a mix on some of our resort style parks that it's going to be some vacation rentals, if that is, park models, if that is, A-frames, if it's, the wagons or the tents, safari tents, something very cool is definitely something that we're looking to do and incorporate within our parks as well.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Well, it was great chatting with you, Carter, and I'm sure I will see you at other events down the road. I know people are pretty much heads down opening up the parks for the summer right now, but next fall there's always tons of conferences. I'm sure I'll see you around, and it's great catching up with you. So
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome talking as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carter.
Yeah. Well, have a good rest of the week, everyone, and we will see you again next week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com.